All right, so we're going to do an update and a mini review. Pure Reflections pR401. It is a DTS, direct to substrate. That's the hardener. I think it was like a couple $100 or less. You get basically 1.25 gallons, and it's filled right to the top, which is nice. We're, a lot of products, right? They don't fill them up. This was filled up. And my paint supply guy, I was using a lot of expensive stuff, and he said, "Try this." He goes, "It's pretty good." So there you go, your 4-to-1 mix. Dry times are super fast, like 1 to 2 hours, and you can sand it, which is pretty cool. It is a DTS, which is direct to substrate. However, it says right on there, substrates, yada, yada, yada. Guess it doesn't say on there, but if you pull the TDS sheet, you can put it direct over metal, but it's got to be like sandblasted or properly prepped or whatever, and totally fine for breakthroughs. So it will stick to metal, but it wasn't meant for great big areas of metal, but you can use it on that. Now the downside that I'm seeing, it is a 2K. I don't think it's quite an epoxy. It could be. The stuff comes out of there, looks like that brown epoxy primer hardener to me. But anyway, it just says 2K. So it is what it is. I gotta say, I went and picked up one of these guns a while back just to have around the shop in case I needed a spare. Sometimes things happen, or you're painting a trailer with like shitty trim clad or Rust-Oleum or something like that. It's a 1.4 tip. Comes with a few tips, but I put a 1.4 in it. And I grabbed it to try this out because this stuff says you can use a 1.4 and then a couple smaller ones. So the primer guns I use usually has like a 1.8 or a 2.0 tip. So I grabbed that to try it to see what would happen. And let me show you what happened, and we'll do an update on the Dodge Ram parts. So this is what it does. I don't know if I can catch it, but it is very, very smooth. Now, it does say you have to sand it, so I don't think you can just paint directly over it like a sealer. That being said, my paint supply guy told me that it goes on pretty smooth. He goes, you do sand it. He goes, but it's real easy to sand. I'll learn about that tomorrow morning, but I got to be honest, I'm very impressed. It's very smooth. I mean, they recommend that you prep this with 400 to 600. So a red Scotch-Brite would probably be more than enough. I'll use the paper, but at least this way you can Scotch-Brite in all the little spots and be fine. I know the other primer I use is an epoxy primer. Now it's more than double the price of that stuff. That would be the pR401 from International Coatings. But yeah, I mean, the nice stuff with the other is you can paint directly over it within after so many hours, but within 3 days or 4 days or whatever it is. Could be a day, I forget, but you can paint right over it. But it goes on real rough, so in my opinion, you sort of can't. Now, you can mix it with a certain percentage of reducer. But anyway, back to this stuff. It is very, very smooth. I piled a little extra on here, and there's a little bit of a sag, but other than that, I mean, I've got that. I'll show you the bumper in a minute. Both sides of the box. The back of the box, across the bottom, where we welded plates in for the corner hooks. It was the only thing wrong with this box. I primed all those in there. Doesn't matter, we're doing a liner in there. Tailgate. Put her on, basically I should have the equivalent to 2 coats, which is what it says. And if you want a little more build, you can do 3 full wet coats or 1 or 2 medium wet coats. So 2 coats or 3 coats you can do. You could probably get away with 1 if you overlap it and spray it a little thick, you know, but this is gonna scuff and sand real nice. Like, it is very, very smooth. I'm very impressed, actually, for what it is. I wish you could use it and just paint right over it, because other than that little spot over there I'd have to sand out. It's smooth, man. Like, it's nice. Forgot to take this off, so tomorrow morning I'll have to spray the back of this, and around here we'll take this off and take all this out of there. There's no gas tank. This is just a box sitting on a trailer. A lot of work, a lot of scars, a lot of sanding issues with this guy here. So it's closer to the 3 coats on this one, as in I put a fat coat on all the spots I didn't like. Then I did a coat, then I did another coat. But even at that, there's no runs anywhere, and it is smooth, smooth, smooth. The only thing on it that wouldn't be smooth is anything I left. There was a place where I had a few dimples right in here. We're not going to worry about those. I don't know if I can show you that. There you go, once it focuses. They're pretty minor. I could fill those and put a bit of primer over them, but I think it's good enough for what it is. I'll see how I feel about that. Maybe I will fix them, but everything else is really nice. Here it was all chewed. We did a bit of work and epoxy primed some of that. So this way I thought we'll seal the whole thing. You can use it as a sealer, but you do have to sand this one. Now you could probably try without and maybe it'll be okay, but it doesn't seem to indicate that you can do that. So tomorrow morning I'll probably sand all this and wipe it all down and basically put our yellow paint on it. So that's my mini review on Pure Reflections 401 DTS primer. Yeah, very impressed. Real smooth stuff. So if you got something where you had to sand it aggressively and you're worried about a little sand swirl and that sort of thing, 2-3 coats of this, give it a scuff. It's going to be nice. It's going to be smooth. I had a bunch of sanding right up in this area here, and I thought I should almost touch that up, but it's gone. And I mean, it wasn't crazy, but it was enough that if you just used a cheapy primer, like a sealer, put it on thin, you know, it might show, but not now. I'm very impressed with this stuff so far. Very happy. So let's go for a little walk. That's the 05 Dodge Rumblebee we're talking about. Had to get more paint. I find this stuff is nice. It looks good on a vehicle. It's the Nason Fullthane, which I guess is their version of, what would you call that? It's like a urethane, I guess, but they call it Fullthane for whatever reason. Well, that's a little disturbing. It says lemon yellow. And up here we got solar yellow, so we might have to pop that open and have a look. But what did they have for a paint code? That should be on there somewhere. Well, that's a little bit, here we go. Indo yellow, lemon yellow. Okay, I got it. We're good. It is solar yellow, but I guess they have all the other names along with it down here for whatever reason. Anyway, they use the other label to make it. It should be fine. This stuff, like I say, you spray it about 29 to 31 pounds, you know. It seems to be happy right at that 29.5, actually, I think is where I set on my little 3M gauge on the gun. Again, it'll depend what gun you use, what you got to do there. It's a little messy. You get some overspray, and the overspray is sticky. So that's a thing. However, you shoot it on, you can almost commit to going like, you got to do 3 coats. So I do a sticky coat, kind of quick. I do a medium coat, and then I do a medium coat, but I make sure that last coat's a little wet. And it turns out absolutely stunning. I'd show you the truck, but it's outside in the dark. The cab had been painted quite some time ago. a few months back, probably spring, early summer. Now we're heading into what? I guess we're in February. No. Anyway, it's a late night, but we're probably in September. So, but it shoots on really, really smooth, which is nice. It's a nice paint. I'm in Canada. You buy that stuff at Napa, and I find here it's very expensive. My paint supply guy doesn't stock Nason paint. So what happens is, I guess it's an American product, and with the exchange rate in the last couple of years, it just shot through the roof. So it used to be a cheap paint for us, but not so much anymore. But I also use the Limco Supreme, or Limco Supreme Select, in a urethane single stage. I find it's nice, but if there's any dirt or any junk in it, make sure you filter it, because you get a lot of little dirt specks. Now, I've also tried the paint called Uno, which I believe that's not a Limco. I believe that's a BASF product. I did a 56 Dodge. It was like an aqua blue color. You can go back a few videos to see that. And I got to say, that stuff went on. It was a single stage, and I mean, it went on beautifully, and basically the first coat hit everything, and the guy told me it would. He says, but make sure you do your second coat anyway. But the first coat hit everything, and there was like 1 or 2 spots where I got a little bit of dry in it, a little bit of dry spray. But with the second coat, it just ate right into it, and it was smooth, 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 and you couldn't see the dust nibs in it like whatsoever, if there were any. And 24 hours later, we had all the chrome back on the car. We drove it to a car show, and it had a really good reception. People loved the paint. And I thought it was funny because I was standing there looking at it, and every once in a while you could almost get up close to it and get a little whiff of product. So that was kind of cool. But sometimes you pay more for some things and it works better. But for me, the cost of the Uno paint is probably better than the full thing Nason paint from Napa. So that's what I'm going to use. On this one, we're using what we started with. This is my dad's truck, and he's got like a discount account or whatever through Napa. He buys a lot of stuff with his business basically through Napa. So that's what he wanted to use, and I think he thought he was getting a deal. That being said, we did the cab, the doors, fenders, hood. We did the jams and everything. Like, so we used probably most of a gallon. So he went back and got another, I think 2/3 of a gallon. So that plus the little bit that's left should be enough to paint all this. I find it doesn't go far, where I know a gallon, maybe a gallon and a quart of the Limco Supreme would have done this whole truck. Now keep in mind, when you're doing a new truck, in this case, we did a new tailgate, so we painted it on both sides. The box, we just did the outsides, but we did catch all the edges and up the pillars in the back. Grill, that piece of the tailgate. The bumper's quite huge. Right, so you could probably get away with a gallon of Limco, and I have, on a regular cab 8-foot box pickup truck that has, say, chrome bumpers and whatnot. And we did jam that one, and inside the doors as well. But I find this stuff doesn't go quite as far. But with this truck, it goes even less far because, you know, there's so many parts. I did a little Tacoma, 2002 Tacoma, a couple years ago. And I think I got an older video of that. Beautiful red color, Inferno red. And we did it with a gallon. Didn't have to do the jams and everything on that one, though. But the gallon did the whole outside of the truck. And I literally squeezed out the last drop on the trigger as I finished. And I think I might have threw away less than you'd have in half a shot glass. So it ate up a whole gallon. So keep in mind, if you're planning a job and you're kind of new at it or doing it at home, if you think you need the extra quart, get it. You can do some calculations on the internet where they tell you how much you'll need mixed. So then you got to look at the ratio to know how much to buy. So just make sure you get enough. And then if you get a quart and a gallon, another good hint here, a lot of guys will say, well, you want to dump it all in a bucket and mix it all together. That's not necessarily wrong. However, keep this in mind. Start with your little quart, because the second and possibly third coat will go over top and it'll all be the same anyway. Like if it's off by just a touch, right? So instead of mixing everything together, just run that quart through the first couple guns on your first, you know, basically your ground coat, your first coat, your tack coat, if you will. So that's a pretty good tip. No, I've never heard anyone talk about, but I have seen where people go, oh, mix it all together in a big bucket. I mean, you can do that. Now some paint stores have like a 1.5 gallon can as well. But again, don't sweat it. If you go to the automotive to paint your own car, you figure you need like a quart and a gallon. Just start off with the quart. You'll be done through that really quickly. And then when you're into the gallon, it'll all be the same by the time you're done. But that's it for tonight. Just wanted to do a quick one. Show you what this primer was like. So far, pretty happy. Once I get her painted, we'll do another video. Cheers.